Australia annihilated. They have been demolished in this first test match by an innings and 32 runs. Who would have thought that India will be able to bundle out the Aussies in 2.5 days and take a 1-0 lead in the Border Gavaskar Trophy? The Aussies worked only for 2.5 days, but on the other hand, take a look at this man, Dinesh Karthik, works in double shifts. He was in commentary and he's right here. He's quickly dashed his way to his hotel room and with a big smile on his face, he's joining us on Cricbuzz Chatter. Did you expect this result in this manner in 2.5 days? Hand on your heart and tell me you didn't.
Look, I think from the outset, we always knew a couple of things. Australians in these kind of pitches, which aids a lot of spin, it's going to be a big challenge for them. It's like when India travel abroad and play on seaming conditions. We have seen these results sometimes in the recent past. So you expect it, but to finish it in just under 3 days is a phenomenal effort. Credit to the bowlers, phenomenal, great bowling by both the spin twins. But most importantly, I think we should stand up and applaud how well the batters applied themselves. Rohit Sharma at the start, Ravindra Jadeja towards the middle, and then Akshar Patel just showing his class with the bat, just making sure he takes it to that part where the Australians get hurt mentally more than anything else. And that's exactly the kind of feeling that you would want to get in the first series, throwing some mental body blows, so to say.
Yes, there was a time when the Australian media and the crowd would say, if Lily doesn't get you, Thomo will. Fair to say now that if Jadeja doesn't get you, Ashwin will.
It's interesting we say that because Ashwin has picked 8 wickets this test match, Jadeja has picked 7. And the beautiful part about it is both of them picked fifers, one in the first innings and the other one in the second innings. But a terrific bowling effort. I think what was really good to see is that both of them stood true to what they were good at. Ravindra Jadeja cleaning up the right-handers in the first innings, and R. Ashwin causing a lot of trouble to the left-handers in the second innings. And what is also important is that man at the top there, Mohammad Shami. I think he bowled brilliantly to finish the tail. And also, let's not forget, not go too far, just about the near past, and not forget what happened at the start of first day. Mohammad Siraj bowled a beautiful spell up front, and that set the tone, I felt, because getting a wicket in the second over is always something that is great in a test series coming in, and that was good to watch as well.
LBW, Ravichandran Ashwin, these words were written 5 times in the second inning scorecard. Safe to say, DK, that when the batsman is a left-handed one, Ashwin is right always.
You have to a point. It is phenomenal watching him bowl. Just the kind of trajectories that he's able to bowl, the kind of deliveries that he's able to bowl, and you could see a David Warner with his grand career that he's had so far, still finding a way to deal with Ashwin, because in India, in subcontinent conditions, especially on pitches like these, which offer spin and the odd one keeps straight, it's always a challenge for a batter. And you could see he was trying his best, trying to defend and making sure that he didn't give any room for error. And the first one, he had almost got caught by Virat Kohli at slip. But the second time, he didn't want the help of anybody else, I guess, Ashwin, and just went straight and hit his pad. And, the rest is history, as they say.
He seems to be such a momentum bowler. When he gets his first couple of overs right, he just seems to get into a zone where he seems unplayable. And Ashwin just kept coming at the Aussies. And credit to Rohit as well for bowling a long spell with Ashwin right at the start. He just didn't take him off, and why would he?
Definitely. I think Rohit led the team really well as well. I think the way he rang in the changes in terms of his bowling consistently, not only today, but also the first day's play was really good to watch. But Ashwin, you go and ask any batter, so all they need is the first boundary, and then, things kind of start rolling and you feel better. And similarly for Ashwin, I think if he gets a wicket up front in his spell, then that spell is very different to what it could be if that didn't happen. And you could see that evidently with Ashwin, because the way, the revs that he gives to the ball, the confidence came through, and the kind of wickets that he got, almost everyone trying to defend a ball that's on the stump, but finding it hard even then.
There was too much talk about what the pitch is going to be, and opinions were sort of flying thick and fast. And before they'd even taken to the field, I thought they were almost already blaming the pitch for what was going to be a loss. I thought the Aussies got into a certain negative zone, but the truth serum was served to Australia when India batted in their first innings. 400 runs scored on that very pitch.
Yes, I think we have to credit Indian batting, and also in many ways talk about Australia's bowling to a point, because, for them, Cameron Green is a very important player. Not only does he bring a lot to the table in terms of the fact that he can through the middle, those 10, 12 overs at good intensity. And also he gives a break to the fast bowlers a little bit. But also what was interesting is Todd Murphy playing his debut in many ways outshone Nathan Lyon. I think he picked up the wickets, he created the opportunities, and players found it hard to play him. Whereas Nathan Lyon, a touch unlucky, he created a couple of opportunities, and you would want your fielders to hang on to that. Then you feel a lot better. But having said all that, the way Indians applied, playing a lot more of the back foot, playing it late, playing it with the turn, and most importantly, when they did get beaten, they didn't get flustered. They were like, it's okay, next ball, let me get ready. And that's the kind of attitude they play with throughout their 140 overs that they batted. And that was really good to watch. Even a Shami coming in literally towards the end made it really hard to get his wicket. And that is always good to see.
The Australians take a lot of pride in how their team performs. They've been world beaters for a long time, especially the last 20, 30 years. They've won big and for a long time. After this result, this was clearly an annihilation to say the least. There will be recriminations back home for the Aussies. And the one question that a lot of Aussie fans are asking or talking about on Twitter is they went to India with the wrong squad. So many left-handers. And if you look at India's record against left-handers since 2017, it is a staggering number that tells you a story. I'm not sure if the Aussies looked these numbers up. Did they come to India with the wrong squad? Because these are terrific numbers.
Look, I think when you pick a squad, you pick major part of your squad picks itself. Let's talk about a Travis Head or a Matt Renshaw for that example. He's done well. He's earned his place in the team. The one change that they did bring, which was kind of a surprise, was a right-hander, Peter Hanscom. So I don't think you can completely discredit the selectors for what they have done. I think they have picked a squad on its merit. If you take the Australian team, it's a very strong team in their conditions. They might have a lot of left-handers, but even if you pick others, can you play anybody instead of, say, a David Warner or a Usman Khwaja, or for that matter, Alex Carey? You have to play these players because they have done well. You can't just not play them because they're a left-hander. Yes, India have a good track record against them, but what they need to be doing is they understand that left-handers are probably easy meat for Indians. They need to figure out mentally the left-handers in themselves to figure out a tactic to play them well. Now, that's what it comes down to. It's not about selectors picking some random Joe just because he's a right-hander. I think what they need to be doing, the left-handers, is obviously go out there, have a game plan, which is a mix of defense where they trust that and attacking the right balls with the shots that they have in their repertoire. That's going to be important. I think I will definitely not blame the selectors for selecting the team they did. In fact, it was a solid squad. They provided 4 spinners, options, what you would require in Indian conditions. And it was good to see the selectors actually pick a Todd Murphy ahead of a Swepson or an Agar, who would have obviously thought that they had a chance in first, but they went for Todd Murphy because of the matchup against Indian right-handers. The off-spinners have done well over a period of time. So credit for that. There's a lot of debate about the other left-hander that they left out, Travis Head. I personally feel that was a hard decision on him. Yes, he's probably not had his best times in Asia, but you have to back a player like that who's done so well. And I think they will go back to Travis Head. You will see a few changes in the 11 post this test match in the Australian team when they come back for the second test.
Yes, they were chasing a mountain in this second innings, trailing by a huge number. Now, they often say that body language mirrors what's going on in the mind. And it seemed like before they even came out to bat, the Aussie batsmen had sort of dismissed themselves in the head, saying, what are we going to do? And that seemed to be writ large in their body language. None of them, that word that you guys in commentary use so often, application, that seemed to be missing today because these numbers are appalling.
If you do look at the scorecard, just up front, it would look like obviously, they've played poorly. And it's also a scoreboard always tells you a story, and you can see the majority of the dismissals being LBW telling us a story that the bowlers have bowled straight, attacked the stumps. And the second part of that is Australia haven't defended well. Is the big story there. So that would mean that they got to go back and they got to plan how they're going to defend balls that are being attacked on, especially at the stumps. They are probably looking for the one that turns and hence missing out on the straight one. They'd rather play for the straight one a lot more and get nicked off than try and do the other way around, because the one that goes straight always goes quicker, and that is always the tougher one to play as well. So that's again a mental shift. They need to practice that. It's a game of skill at the end of the day. They need to back their skill. Whatever skill they have definitely given them a lot of success in Australia. And one bad game doesn't make them a bad team. They're a team which has some world-class players. They just need to dig deep, get that determination and grit and nail that in the next time they come. We remember how when India toured Australia, they got demolished in the first test in Adelaide, literally losing the test match in one session. And that's exactly what's happened to Australia. But India found a way to dig deep, come back in spite of the injuries, and did what they did in the last Border Gavaskar series. This one is a challenge for this Australian team. And I'm sure with the characters that they have, they will look deep inside and find a way and answer all the questions that the Indian bowlers are throwing at them.
Yes, Steve Smith remained not out on 25, 2 4s and 1 6, and he's the only guy that perhaps showed that little spark. He seemed to have a plan. It may not have worked out because the others got out as well. Should they have attacked? Because you couldn't have really defended for 2.5 days on this pitch or against this kind of bowling lineup, and the wickets kept falling. So you needed one guy or one pair to at least make a match out of it. That just didn't happen today.
If you talk about it generically and say they could have attacked, I think that would be rather unfair. I think we at Cricbuzz pride ourselves being very cricket smart about it. I think if you take an example, Alex Carey, he attacked, but the only thing that he did was play sweeps. He played a reverse sweep, he played a normal sweep, but he needs to mix that with trusting his defense. And the odd option is to obviously drive or step out. Now, if you do that, that gives you the opportunity to obviously get ahead of the bowler. But if you're only sweeping, which could be your aggressive option, then the bowler knows to a point that this is what he's trying to do. So this is the kind of ball that I'm going to bowl. But on the other side, they need skill as well. It's not easy to just say attack. I think attack needs to be mixed with defense, and attack is even more efficient when you're good in defense. So they need to definitely attack. A person who should have attacked today a little bit was David Warner. I thought he defended really well till the time he lasted. But when the ball was on the leg stump, at times he should have swept it so that he puts that doubt on Ashwin's mind. But he still went ahead and kept defending it. And that is the kind of batsmanship that you want to see. Not just defend your way through it, because that's not going to be easy, but find a way to mix defense and get your attacking options right.
The Indian team is a happy camp, and Vikram Rathod has said we're privileged to have three really quality spinners who can bat. So it's a great position to be in as a team. We are fortunate to have all three in our team playing together. Can you look back and think of any other era where India's had 2 or 3 spinners who can bat like Ashwin can, Jadeja can, and for that matter, Akshar can as well?
I honestly think this is probably one of the strongest teams that India can put up in domestic soil. And I say that because of these 3 bowlers who are top quality, world class. One's picked 450 wickets. One is obviously got 250 wickets, closing in on it. He almost got it till he bowled at no ball in the last ball. And most importantly, Akshar Patel, who's arguably gone to the to 50 wickets. That's how good these guys are. So these are 3 world-class bowlers in these conditions, in this pitch that we're talking about. And that's what makes this Indian team really special. When you have somebody who can bat really well at number 9, that tells you a story. And I don't think teams can boast of that. And this is actually in a way a little interesting, because when India travel abroad, they can't play 3 spinners and they end up playing 1. And then the rest of the 4 probably don't bat that well. And that makes the Indian batting look a little light. But that's how most teams are. They only bat till 7, probably till 8. But this Indian team has the luxury because they're not only good bowlers, they also give you a lot with the bat as well.
And the foundation of this massive win was laid by the captain, Rohit Sharma. Now, his numbers in tests at home are Bradman-esque. An average of 75 at home, 800s, 2 against South Africa, 2 against England. And my mind races back to this thing that Nasser Hussain tweeted 5 years ago. He said, you can't be as talented as Rohit and not crack test cricket. India needs to stick with him. Don't worry about stats. Use your eyes and gut feeling. And I'm so glad that the selectors and the captain and the decision makers in those days chose to do what Nasser Hussain suggested. He is such a delight to the eyes. He's so pleasing, even when he's defending.
Oh, there is no doubt about that. I think he's a world-class batsman, and he's probably and arguably one of the best batters across formats that has played for the country. He recently, obviously, with this 100, goes on to become the first Indian captain to score 100 in all formats. His record in India is upwards of 75, which is a phenomenal average to have. And the moment he's shifted from being a middle order batsman to an opener in white ball cricket, things changed dramatically. And in test cricket, the landscape of what he's become as a batsman has changed phenomenally as well. And you can see he enjoys batting. He relishes the opportunity to bat fast bowlers first up and then go on to play spinners. He is somebody who is very special to India. And I sometimes feel he's not celebrated enough as a test opener. I think he's got a lot of credentials in the white ball format, and a lot of people speak about his accolades in the white ball format, but as a test opener, he's been really good in the limited time that he's done it.
And he doesn't like it when television directors take too much time to show a replay when they go for the DRS, does he?
And that's the beauty about Rohit as well. What you see is what you get, and he's pretty honest about what he wants the cameraman to show at that point of time.
Yes, and then when Rohit hits a test 100, India don't lose. That's what the record says. So if Rohit hits 100, you can be sure that India are on course for a big win. Now, can the Aussies take a cue from what Rohit has done? We've got a question for you from Sauradeep Roy. I sent a question with hashtag Ask Cricbuzz Chatter. He says, in a short span of time before the second India-Australia test match, what can Australia work on to improve their play versus spin?
I think they can take a big cue from what Rohit has done. And what I mean by that is the way he mixed attack and defense. And that was really good to watch. And that's what put the Australian bowlers at bay. And that's what the Australians to be doing. Finding a way to mix and match the way they defend and the way they attack. They're either showing way too much intent, which in turn is being the cause for their downfall, or they're trying to defend a lot more than what is necessary at times. So they need to get that mix right, especially the one that is slightly flatter, bowled from slightly wider of the crease, that gives you a perception that it's probably going to go straight, which it would if the pitch didn't assist spin. But in Indian wickets, where it obviously aids spin, they got to play that a lot more on the front foot, and that is a key plan for them, because Jadeja will keep asking you those questions from the middle of the box and wide of the crease and keep bowling it on the stump. The odd one will turn, and you got to be okay with that to get beaten. But the one that comes straight at you, you got to find a way to play it with your bat, and preferably off the front foot, because when you play it off the back foot, there won't be any time for you to adjust. And that's something that they need to put in their minds.
Yes, credit where it's due to Ashwin and Jadeja and Aksar and Shami and Siraj for where they bowled, but a lot of these deliveries didn't seem unplayable. I'm just wondering, in the last 2.5 decades, two names come to my mind: Gilchrist and Sehwag. Now these guys changed the rules of Test cricket, batting in Test cricket. Teams are now scoring at a faster rate as well. They are a lot more gung ho. They back themselves to hit the big hits, but purely on defensive technique. How have you seen the evolution of the art of batsmanship? Is there a degeneration? And I do not intend to blame T20 cricket or white ball cricket, but is there a degeneration purely on defensive technique in Test cricket world over?
I think over a period of time, obviously, a lot of players are focused on white ball cricket, which would actually mean a lot of things that you do in Test cricket, the opposite of it. In Test cricket, you need to play late, you need to wait on the ball, whereas in white ball cricket, you need to go hard so that you can beat the gaps, you can beat the fielders in the deep. So it's absolutely the opposite. Yes, maybe the defensive technique over a period of time has been compromised a little. But when you speak about Gilchrist and Sehwag, their skill levels are very different and very high as well, especially Sehwag. The way he played spin was phenomenal. His attitude towards spin was very, very different. He didn't like to defend spinners, so he took on bowlers. But what was really great about him, and that's a skill that you can't acquire, is the fact that he constantly hit against the spin. And that's what makes him special. Another player who comes immediately to mind is Brian Lara. He again hit the ball a lot against the spin, and he added that with the fact that he could step out as well. Now that's what made bowlers really hard when they had a challenge with a Brian Lara or a Sehwag. So it's wrong to compare these players with the current players. I think the current players have their own strength, and they will find a way to do it their own way. I think it's just unfair to compare them to a Gilchrist or a Sehwag.
Right. 2023 has gotten off to a fantastic start for India. We won against New Zealand as well. White ball cricket, India has won pretty much everything. The first test match has been won comprehensively, convincingly. And there you are. Sri Lanka, New Zealand, T20Is, ODIs, India has won everything. Now, a lot of fans who often keep cricketing logic aside, they keep objectivity aside, and they operate emotionally. They're saying 2023 could prove to be a 24-carat gold year for India with two world titles, the WTC as well as the ODI World Cup title later this year at home. Augurs well. How have you seen India's journey this year so far? And what's your hunch? Where is this going? If you have a crystal ball that you can sort of look into and tell us where you see India's journey.
Number one, I think, as they would say in Hindi, it's been a Shubh Aram. I think it started really well. That is really good. But let's not count chickens before they hatch, because let's take Test cricket right now. The pitches that they play on here to what they would play in a World Test Championship final in Lords in the early part of the summer is very different. Australia is a very, very formidable side in those conditions. So it's not going to be easy when they play them. If they play them, they have to play another couple of matches, make sure they cross that line, and then we'll start talking about the World Test Championship final. But do they have a good chance? They do. And for me, I would still say Australia start as a front runners in that World Test Championship, purely because the conditions are more favorable to them. The fact that they have three medium pacers who are constantly at you and who have skill sets to really trouble you in those conditions. So that is a big question. I think if we get there, it's a great effort. To win that is a completely different thing. And then we move on to the ODI World Cup. Again, that's going to be a massive challenge. I think in the league phase, we are a team which will obviously, in many ways, play some one-sided games and move on to the semi-finals. But come the crunch game, it's who does well on that day. So it's very easy for us to get carried away by the current results. But let's be honest, I think in bilaterals, we've been a really good team over a period of time now, almost a decade. It's in those ICC multi-nation tournaments that it's been an Achilles heel for us in the last decade. And that is something that we should look to change. We will look to change, and we have a great chance in this World Cup. Do we? Yes. But it's on that semi-final day when we qualify how we play on that given day.
Dinesh Karthik, always the voice of reason. The World Test Championship final will be played the 7th June onwards. India haven't yet qualified. India need to beat Australia in this series to qualify. Australia are at number 1. And so there's a long, long way to go before we start talking about the WTC final. Time now to put Dinesh Karthik in the hot spot. Here is what's coming your way, DK. Should Pat Cummins fall back to playing three pacers, which is their strength in this format? Did he err by opting this horses for courses approach?
No, absolutely not. Pat Cummins shouldn't go back to three fast bowlers format. I think he should make a few changes. And for me, that would be Head coming in place of Matt Renshaw. If Cameron Green is fit, then he definitely walks into the team again. And that would, whether he goes in with two fast bowlers and two spinners, or whether he goes in with an extra bowler in place of Boland, that's the question. I think again, when we go to Delhi, it will be a pitch that aids spin. So definitely not more than two medium pacers. Now the question is, if Cameron Green is fit and he's ready to bowl, will he be the second medium pacer or the third medium pacer? That's the only question that they should be asking.
Yes, looking ahead to that second test match that starts on 17th of February, it will be played at the Feroz Shah Kotla in Delhi. Let us take a look at the Australian squad. And barring Cameron Green, are there any other options that can be considered by Andrew McDonald and Pat Cummins? They will take a while to recover from this absolute drubbing. So Cameron Green, possible. How much time do you have for David Warner? A double 100 at home in the Australian summer. He's not scored runs in this test match, but he's a pedigreed player. No, he hasn't had great numbers in India, but is it time for Australia to be a little bit impatient with him, make that change, or will that be a sign of panic?
No, definitely not. I don't think that they need to look past Warner. I think he's a really good batsman, and I have a genuinely strong feeling that he will come good in a couple of the innings that he's going to play from here on. And he's a very key player for them moving forward in the World Test Championship final and the Ashes that they're going to be playing in the later part of the year. So they would need him there. Now, in terms of the 11, as I said before, if you do look at it, for me, Travis Head is a definite look-in place of Matt Renshaw. The bigger question is, if Mitch Starc or Hazelwood is fit, then do you bring him in place of Boland, or do you just go with the same 11 and you have Cameron Green as the second medium pacer? Now, that's the question that they need to answer.
Easy one for India. Is it going to be a case of cut, copy, paste for the playing 11, or do you want to talk about KL Rahul?
No, I think that's far too early. I think we should stick to the same 11. I think a winning combination is a good combination, and we need to have patience and faith. I have a lot of faith in KL, and also I have a lot of faith in the fact that Shubman Gill will be a superstar. He will get his chance and he will do well. He's the kind of player who no one can stop because of his work ethics, because of his determination, and most importantly, because of the kind of form that he is in.
Yes, it is. It's a fantastic 1-0 result for India. However, word of caution, the job's not done yet. It's a 4-test match series. Australia have the ability and the players to bounce back. They've got the likes of Warner and Usman Khawaja, who's been in sensational form. Steve Smith could come to the party as well in Delhi. And then, of course, there's Nathan Lyon as well, who is taking a while to get going. So we will be with you through this Border Gavaskar trophy with Dinesh Karthik in English and Parthiv Patel with Cricbuzz Chatter in Hindi. Now, DK used the word faith. Faith is something that was shown by a cricket coach called Badruddin Siddiqui, and a young man who was born in Amroha, Uttar Pradesh, son of a farmer called Tausif Ali. Now, that man has had a sensational journey and is now one of the mainstays of this Indian bowling group. And he features in the next episode of a brand new Cricbuzz original called Rise of New India. Here, take a look.
हमारे पास एंटी करप्शन आई थी तो उन्होंने हमसे पूछा था कि शामी could do a match fixing or not.
He came to me and he said, मैं बहुत गुस्सा हूँ and मैं तो क्रिकेट छोड़ने वाला हूँ.
The chapter is incomplete without talking about Mohammad Shami.
So Ravi said, गुस्सा है तो बहुत अच्छा है because you have a ball in hand.
I have seen him get angry, and he is somebody who has a lot of pride about his cricket.
उसको जब हमने देखा नेट में तो फिर माही बहन ने बोला हाँ he is good.
From wanting to leave the game, having suicidal thoughts, to bouncing back. Now, every athlete has a slump in their career, but very few rise the way Shami did.
In my whole career, he's been the toughest bowler I've faced in the nets.
Mohammad Shami. So many untold stories on Rise of New India. Only on Cricbuzz Plus.
The Mohammad Shami episode of Rise of New India releases tomorrow, on the 12th of February, only on Cricbuzz Plus. So you've got 5 days before the next test match starts, and why worry about the next test match? Why don't you just sign up for Cricbuzz Plus, and that's where you can watch lots of ad-free content, features, special interviews, and this special episode that talks about the journey of Mohammad Shami. DK was in it as well, looking a little more dapper with those fancy glasses. DK, what a sight it is to watch Mohammad Shami bowl, especially with the new ball, with that upright seam coming in. He's been one of the more fascinating stories of India's